Welcome to AstroEnergy with astrologer angel Shelley Overton. Hello and welcome to the October 10th, 2017 AstroEnergy Astrology Show. My name is Shelley Overton and I am an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to welcome you to the show, and I hope you are in a good place, in a good mood, and excited for today's show. We're going to be talking about kind of quantum reality, and I have this debate with my son all the time because, he's young and he has an Aquarius rising, which rules astrology, but he is not into astrology yet. I think that probably will come in the next decade as Pluto goes into Aquarius, but he's also got Moon in Aquarius, Neptune in Aquarius, and Uranus in Aquarius. So he's got about 4 connections to Aquarius, which means he likes to challenge people. So if you know anybody with a strong Aquarius or Uranus in their chart, basically they're going to give counterpoints to most arguments. And that's what my son does. So anyway, I talk about reality and infinite realities and things like this with him, and he always likes to basically call me on the idea that quantum doesn't mean what I think it means, but I've studied a lot of stuff and researched information, and granted, I am not a scientist, but I think I understand a certain area of the field and how it relates to metaphysics. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and then we're going to go over the chart and what's going on in the sky right now and what's affecting our events in the world, and then we'll take some calls at the bottom of the hour, close to the bottom of the hour, maybe a little bit sooner. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, infinite realities. The reason I wanted to talk about this week was because infinite realities, every time I think about astrology, and I've said this multiple times on the program before, that I will lay in bed, and usually it's the day before the show, and I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just start thinking about astrology and connections of planets and what they mean, and pretty soon I'm getting these aha moments and epiphanies. And when I start to think about it, and even when right now I'm editing my astrology book that I'm writing, and I had my cousin edit it, and she's saying, well, I don't know if this makes sense or that makes sense, because she doesn't have any exposure to astrology. But I wrote it in a very conversational tone, and when I think of astrology and teaching astrology, I always come back to the idea of, when I tell you something, how does that mean that that's going to be an accurate prediction? And I also believe, having researched reality, because I'm a huge student of we create our reality and law of attraction, and a lot of conceptual, theoretical ideas around what makes reality. And I have read the Seth books, and I listen to different YouTube videos on people who channel and talk about this kind of thing. And what infinite realities means is that every choice, every moment, every action we take, we have infinite possibilities to go down. So not only do we have infinite possibilities of outcomes and of directions we could go, like, the idea of a fork in the road, it's more than a fork. It's pretty much not only like what you would think of as, say, a flattened out star, but it's a 3-dimensional star of options. It's rays going out in every direction from that moment in time. And now is the central moment. So as I think about that, every choice we have brings us a new reality. And I've talked about chemtrails in the past, and there was a period of time for a couple of years when I kept seeing chemtrails, and that was in my reality. That was what I was focused on. And I'm like, can't you believe that these are, an overriding government spraying this in the air? And, actually, I still believe that, but I also believe stronger that what you focus on expands. And I went through an idea that in dealing with the chemtrails, that I didn't want to live in a reality where chemtrails were affecting my breathing, affecting my life, affecting my environment. And I decided to focus on clear blue skies instead. And quite honestly, that was, I would say, about 9 months ago. And I don't remember seeing a chemtrail since then. And so the point is that what we focus on is where our point of attraction lies. So when we look at our day-to-day lives and we keep noticing the ugly in the world, and I think about this every day when I turn on the news because I'm a news junkie. Unfortunately, I have an attraction to the news, and I want to know what's going on in the world because I do a lot of work alone and singularly, and it kind of removes me from the masses. And I'm not an introvert. I'm actually an extrovert hermit. So the more intuitive I become, the more sensitive I become to people out in the world. And so it's an ongoing thing to try and buffer my energy against people and their opinions, because I am such an empath. I take it on and then it upsets me. So I have found that I've kind of gone deeper and deeper into my little environment, my core world, but I do like getting out. I just don't do it as much as I should. So I end up having a lot of time to think and research. And anyway, the idea of astrology with infinite realities means that where you're focused is what you're observing will create your reality. So when you call my show, I'm going to read the energy you're giving off, and if things continue on that course, it is highly likely, without free will or the conscientious intention or choice to do something different, that events will play out in the way that I'm reading. And the fact that you're calling into the show or that you're talking to me about astrology in this moment, we're sharing this point of attraction. So when I think of astrology in that way, in the quantum way, I definitely believe that what we observe in the sky isn't necessarily the same for every person. I think that wherever your point of attraction is what you're observing and what you're going through. And some people may be going through the realities of the planets going around the sun at a faster speed, or they may be, well, obviously, just the fact that there are people all over the world looking at the sky, they're looking at it from individual perspectives, as many as there are people on this planet. So it kind of makes you go, well, then how does astrology apply to my life? Because if everybody sees it differently, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us at a point of attraction and the law of attraction, that whatever you focus on is what expands. So if you're interested in what I have to tell you and you express forward with that ideology, then you can continue to draw in those type of things to your life. And if you change your way of behaving, your way of looking and perceiving the world, then you can change your reality. So when you address astrology, it is not a finite thing. It is something that is fluid, just by the sheer fact that every time I look at a planet, I mean, I've got the now chart up right now, and I can hit now, and now they've changed. So instead of having a 28-degree Scorpio rising when I did the chart a few minutes ago, now it's 5-degree Sagittarius where I am in Orlando. So it is this fluid, ever-changing, ever-moving thing. And the beauty of astrology is, though, the tangibles, which are the side of our lives that the earth signs, they want things to never change. The consistency in astrology is the symbology, and is what is assigned to those particular planets and what energies we see with those planets. And the shifts are how they interact with our chart. Find a chart. So when we're born, take our first breath, those planets, based on the astrological system that you used, and there are quite a few different ones you could use, but I use this specific system. I use Tropical Porphyry True Node, and that system says this is what's going on. How we interpret that is specific to the interpreter. And I can see many different changes and different ways of interpreting astrology through the other astrologers that I follow, and even ones that I run across that I may not be following. We all have our way of interpreting, just like we all have our way of speaking and thinking and moving through the world. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think about it, for one, and I just noticed it's 11/11. So you know me, I'm really into numerology, so make a wish if you're following 11/11. And I really think that it's a direction that we are going with consciousness, that there is no one world per se, in a sense that we all share the same reality. We all share the same history. We don't all share the same history. We share the history of the energy we move through as we go through birth through death. So some of that is common to other people and some of it isn't. Somebody who was born in 1964 and lived in Iran did not have the same perception of history that I had. So I guess I just want to bring it to the attention of my listeners that the world is so much more vast and dimensional than we really think in our day-to-day lives. We think that Americans pretty much get up, go to work, come home. But there are so many more ways of getting through the day. There are people who don't work. There are people who don't have a home. There are people who have a career where they work for themselves. Some who have a career work for themselves don't make any money. Some make tremendous amounts of money. So we have this diversity, not only of perception of life, but how we choose to go through life at that point of now, which creates our future. So how about that for a little Tuesday morning wake-up conversation? Anyway, I wanted to bring it up because I think that we are moving more towards this concept that reality is not always set. And so when we look at the state of our country and where it's heading, and part of what brought this up too is just the phenomenal amounts of large-scale disasters going on in this country right now. Puerto Rico and Florida, and last night I turned on the news and fires all over California. 1,500 homes were burnt completely down. So I mean, it's definitely a time of vast shift and change, and I do believe that astrologically we can see where that happens. We can see through where the planets are transiting what will bring information to the fore of consciousness. How that's interpreted can come out through floods, can come out through hurricanes, can come out through lightning strikes and tornadoes and fires and all these terrible disasters that we see. But at the same time, it can come out in wonderful ways, like people coming out of nowhere to support other people. Like I was just reading, Google is sending up a bunch of balloons over Puerto Rico and some Virgin Islands so that people can get their cell connections back. Is it beneficial to Google? Yes, but it's tremendously beneficial to the island that has been without power and communication since the middle of September. So, we have these things that are positive events, and yet it's interesting because I know that we are attracted to the tragedy. We're attracted to the drama, to like, oh no, and to, after that, the fear that goes along, well, our world's collapsing and what's going to happen, and all the prophecies are coming true. Well, the prophecies come true when you focus on them in such a highly focused manner. I mean, I have to say this. This is my little rant, that the movies focus on these apocalyptic storylines, and people go to watch it, and it's so prevalent. I mean, even a TV show that I like to watch, I don't watch it. I saw a couple episodes. I should say that it was a fascinating premise. It's probably more accurate, but the one with Kiefer Sutherland and the White House or Capitol Hill getting blown up by other factions, and so we have all this stuff being fed continuously. It's 24/7 on the news channels. Disaster, war, floods, famine, and then we have it in our real lives. What do you know? The law of attraction has brought it in for us to experience. And so there are other realities, other positive realities. I was watching Dancing with the Stars last night with my daughter, and the most memorable year was the subject. And so they had amazing stories of people overcoming hardships. And it was just so positive and so heartwarming to see that. And so if we focus on positivity, we can bring in the positivity into our worlds. So the hardships and the difficulties and the drama is much easier to focus on, because it gives us, I think our lives can be mundane, and sometimes I think it gives us something to look at, something that wakes us up and makes our blood actively pump and gets us more awake and aware. We need that stimulation sometimes. So anyway, it's just something to think about. But if you have any more thoughts on the matter, please go to my AstroEnergy or Astrologer Angel page on Facebook and let me know, because, it's interesting. I don't get a lot of interaction there. I do get some, but not a great deal. So it would be really wonderful to start some conversations about this. And I do like to post other things on those pages that relate to like NASA and satellites and Jupiter research and things like that. It's just a really cool place to go find out more about space and about astrology and start conversations. So anyway, let's get on to our astrology for the week. So we've got Moon at 22 Gemini right now, which means that the president's probably going to be really chatty for the next day, because that rules his sun sign, and it's really close to his sun sign. So a lot of information is being imparted right now. We're much more chatty than normal. We are analytical because it's an analytical sign ruled by Mercury, or Gemini is. Moon, of course, means that we are inclined to nurturing ourselves through whichever sign it expresses in. And in this case, we will nurture through conversation and intellectual discourse. So we've got an opposition exact at the very moment I'm speaking to Saturn, which for me falls in my first house right here in Orlando. It's going through the first house, which means in Orlando we've got some issues coming up around travel, which is quite interesting considering Orlando's focus and its income greatly is around Disney and travel. And believe it or not, Disney is a Sagittarius company started by a Sagittarius man. So it is also, interestingly, the sign of playfulness, which also exemplifies the Disney parks and the area of Orlando. So Moon in Gemini can be very charismatic, and opposite Saturn means that whatever we're saying has repercussions on a great scale, and a scale that is around the world and in foreign cultures, which of course Sagittarius rules foreign cultures. And so there's like this opposition energy between the emotions, the homeland, and other entities. So this definitely could be some energy around North Korea. And I did hear that, or read, I guess is more accurate, that Jimmy Carter offered up some diplomacy for North Korea in the last 24 hours. So I thought that was really amazing. And he's such an amazing man in that sense. In his 90s, he's still doing this. So something to look forward to, I suppose, being in the 90s and still being quite active, which is probably why he lived so long so far. Anyway, we also have a square between Saturn and Mars today at 22 degrees Virgo. Mars is taking action. This is educational. 25 Venus now past Mars, which means she is on her own. She's not answering to masculine energy anymore. She is standing out. And I find it really interesting. I think I mentioned last week when Jupiter goes into Scorpio, look forward to some sex scandals. And sure enough, we had the Harvey Weinstein sex scandal coming out of Hollywood within a day. And the same day, which I think was Wednesday last week, we also had another senator, I believe, in New England somewhere, came out, or his mistress came out and said, you can't be anti-abortion because you just asked me to get one last week. And I'm like, whoa. So 2 sex scandals in the news within a day of that show. So that was pretty intense. And then right now, Mars in Virgo. Virgo is the Virgin. Virgo is purity and ethics and humility, squaring Sagittarius, which likes to call people out on things, but also is a very physical, sexual energy. So Saturn at 22 Sagittarius is triggering some of these sex scandals as well, because Sagittarius tends to it's interesting because there's actually a connection between Scorpio and Sagittarius, and that Scorpio rules the underworld. It rules sex and sexual behavior based on bonding with other people, and probably even includes bondage on some level. But there is this deep sexual energy of Scorpio. And then Sagittarius is also very sexy, but sexy in an adventurous kind of rock star way, meaning not too wrapped up in the depth of what sex signifies, but definitely these 2 signs and Aries, the 3rd sign, are probably the most sexual connected energies of the zodiac. And Scorpio uses sex for power. All the secrets that come out during sex, things that maybe have been hidden, but in the throes of passion, can be expressed and later on used against one. So Sagittarius brings all that out because Sagittarius really doesn't care about secrets. It just wants to expose what's going on and says, hey, wow, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Moving on, so it doesn't necessarily stick around for the fallout, but it certainly likes to bring it out. So having Jupiter now in Scorpio at 0 degrees and 0 minutes, because literally Jupiter went into Scorpio at 9:20 this morning, which was 2 hours ago. And so it's freshly into Scorpio, and so you should see it start to pick up even more by the end of the week, and into next week is really when it starts to settle into this energy. And so sex is going to be a thing for the next year, and politics, because Scorpio is politics. Scorpio is lawyers and law and death and rebirth and taxes and legalities and inheritance and value of self to others. So it is always the value that is reflected with another person. And Jupiter is playfulness and travel and education, spirituality, and real estate and expression and physical expression and lower half of the body exercise. And so you'll see probably a lot of sex going on in the next year and a lot of intrigue. It's also research and mystery, which is Scorpio. And Jupiter is that playfulness that goes into that. So probably more playfulness and deep secrets coming out. So you combine them, and then there's probably more sex education happening, or at least it'll be pulled into your awareness if you're not actually into it. If you don't focus on it, it may bypass you right on by. So we've got Sun 1 degree off of Mercury, which means that yesterday Sun and Mercury were joined, and now they are in trine to the Moon. And they are within a couple degrees of the South Node and in trine. and then a couple degrees of a sextile to the north node. So this is actually probably a really positive energy. Well, everything but Saturn and Sagittarius, not so positive for relationships, but you now have Pluto going direct, which is structure, and they like tangibility and consistency and loyalty, in trine to Venus and Mars in Virgo, which means purity. And probably if children are born at this time, you're going to see a dichotomy between the purity and the wanting to have things structurally consistent with that which is undermining it on some level. Kind of your own worst enemy energy. So whatever it is you want to go towards, you've got Saturn holding you back from square, and another square to the moon today, and an opposition between Saturn and moon. So we've got opposites between home and family, career and structure, but they're both in playful signs. So it's a playing energy around creating new structure and new ideas. So moon in Gemini is the idea, and Saturn in Sagittarius is wanting to take action. Saturn's direct now. So it is at the final 8 degrees of Sagittarius until the 21st of December, which means that Saturn is now working towards congealing the storyline that it has been bringing up for the last couple years. And the storyline is around higher education. It is around travel and careers in other places, and finding your truth, finding your spiritual truth and where you truly want to make your life purpose happen. When it goes into Capricorn, it changes energy and it brings us back down to earth and back into the material. But this time, these last couple months, where it's at late Sagittarius, it's really trying to focus us on more play and more expansion and more understanding, because then it's going to congeal that into some physical reality. And it will create a new direction for real estate. Again, we're at that point where Saturn hits that 0-degree Capricorn. Look for issues around real estate. Capricorn, all earth signs are going to be around the money issues and a little bit of the frugality. And quite honestly, Uranus going into Taurus next year, I expect that that's going to be, because it is a shift around monetary systems, it is going, and it's a big planet, it's a very slow-moving planet, so a change for it is going to be significant. We're probably going to have a significant financial warble next May, or within it on either side, probably in April through June, anywhere in that timeline. I haven't looked at it closely, but it's going to be really significant, and it's going to probably bring out fear, as things like this always do. Saturn will move into Capricorn, so that's kind of a fear-based energy because it wants to control things. It wants to know things are going to be the way they always are. And so it's going to take 2.5 years to really strongly try to create that tangible, consistent energy around structure and around authority and ownership of things. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be another year of probably a wild ride around money and finances and real estate, because Uranus is always the unexpected. So all I can say is expect the unexpected. Right now, Uranus is at 26 Aries. It's opposite Jupiter and has been for a little while, but it is a degrading or passing away, moving out energy, because now Jupiter not only is past the 26-degree mark of Libra, which is when it was opposite, but it's also in Scorpio. So it's not only moved away from a direct opposition, it's now in another sign. And it's in a very intense sign that is actually a louder volume of Aries. So Aries is war and wanting to fight and needing the adrenaline of the fight. It gets the blood going. Scorpio, basically Scorpio will lose interest in the fight and then just completely wipe the table clean. Instead of negotiating, it'll try negotiating as long as it can. And if it doesn't get anywhere, it will say, okay, I'm done. And it's a power move, a power play, but it is more than willing at that point to let go of all attachment because it is a very black and white energy. It means that Jupiter will be very, very attached to a dogma, to an ideology, to a way of doing something. And then when it's exhausted all power and control to be able to make that happen, it just says, fine, I'm done with this. And it will destroy it if it has to. So it's a very powerful, potent energy going into Scorpio, but it is also Jupiter, the power of higher understanding. So it will seek to find the truth and find the facts around what's going on and expands that energy that Scorpio presents. So that's the next year for that energy. The Sun, Mercury, and Libra energy is going to be about intellect, about analyzing relationships. I mean, we've got this energy coming for the rest of the year until probably end of November. We've got Venus and Mars in Virgo, so they'll be going to Libra, bringing up more analysis around relationships and wanting to combine. Now, when Venus gets to Libra, it's going to be very much wanting to pair up again. If you've seen the end of a relationship, you're going to want to pair up again. That happens, let me see here, October 15th. So Mercury went in on the 1st, and Venus goes in on the 15th of October, and Mars goes in on the 23rd of October. So we're going to have the Libra energy pretty solid through the end of November, and we're going to have Venus in Scorpio come November 8th, and Mercury hits Scorpio, the 18th of October. So, the Libra and Scorpio energies are very much about partnering. I think we've seen a lot of the partnering explosion, so to speak, like especially Jupiter at Scorpio. It's either going to be do or die now. Now that Jupiter hit Scorpio, it's about commitment. Are you going to commit? Are you not going to commit? And if you don't commit, it's gone. It's dead and done. So anyway, I've talked a lot. I'm going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back and take some calls. In these days of stress, running around, responsibilities, we all need a little place to go to make it all better. Is that place sports, football, or maybe you like to garden, paint, or just listen to music? Wherever your happy place is, you can find a shirt or mug to reflect that happy place. At myhappyplace.rocks, we have a variety of lifestyle products, including iPhone cases, pajamas, and pet items, all with beautiful, colorful designs, which help us go to our happy place. Stop by on the web for great gift ideas for others and yourself. myhappyplace.rocks. Lenny Pickett appears courtesy of Random Act Records. Check them out at randomactrecords.com. And welcome back. You are listening to the AstroEnergy Show on Blog Talk Radio. My name is Shelley Overton, and if you would like to get a reading with me, you can find me at astrologerangel.com, and you could also find me in multiple places on the web, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my gosh, YouTube. If you go to Artful Shelley on YouTube, you can get basically this show in video format on YouTube. So let's take a call here. Let's do 720. Hi, 720. Who is this?
Hey, this is Dee Dee. How are you doing, Shelley?
Hi, Dee Dee. I am doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I'm actually doing wonderful.
Wonderful.
I do have a question.
First off, before you tell me your question, give me your birth information, then you can tell me your question while I get that up, and it kind of helps everything work out. So where were you born, first off? I'm going to go there.
Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, okay. And what date and time?
October 27, 1976.
Okay.
and the time was 12:43 a.m.
Okay, wonderful. All right. What can I do for you?
I want to know about this transit with how is it going to affect me with Jupiter going into Scorpio. I'm not sure
Okay.
where it is in my chart right now.
Okay.
And then
You have
also,
Mhm.
I'm listening.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No,
And then
I'll get into it after you tell me your other question.
okay, and then with that, I also want to know if I was to start some type of entrepreneurship, what would be the ideal thing for me?
Okay, wonderful. So you have a Leo rising, 11 degrees, and you have Saturn in the first house, which means that you like creative things and children and romance and storytelling. So probably first off, I would say you're also really good at drama and acting if you have any inclination for that. I would say you do. And you have Jupiter up at 28 Taurus, and you also have Uranus up there close to your midheaven at 26 transiting right now. So that's going to be triggering that entrepreneurial desire. It's going into the midheaven, so it's Taurus ruling the Capricorn house, and that means money. It can mean beauty. It can mean the arts. Are you an artist of any sort?
No.
A musician?
No. That's what I'm
Wow.
asking. What should I
That's
be doing?
amazing.
Like I feel like
Well, I can tell you where
yeah.
inclinations are for you. With Saturn in your first house means that you are extremely creative, like I said, and that you can express out your personality in many ways. Sorry, that was just my laundry going off. Yeah, Saturn in the first, within a few degrees of your rising sign, means that your life purpose is meant to explore your creative nature and your childlike wonderment of the world. It can also be, I mean, just things that are more practical or like glass blowing or anything around glass, stained glass, um, again, drama, acting. I'm trying to think, storytelling, writing stories. You could, any way that you could express a story in a creative manner, or something with children. It could be education. It could be just about anything with children. Could also potentially be restaurants if you're so inclined, if that's a creative thing, cooking and something like that. You do have Cancer in the 12th house, which means that you really are drawn to domestic things, as like that's where you feel really comfortable and nurtured. Your Mars is in Scorpio. It is also in the house of home and family, which means your drive is strongly focused around there. So if you're talking about having a business of your own, definitely having some, and it's right next to, in your chart, next to Uranus, which rules entrepreneurship and autonomy. So I would say Scorpio, I mean, there's just so many things you could do based on what all's in your chart, but Saturn says that it's about creativity. Uranus says it has to make money, or it could be about money, or it could be about fashion and design. Your Mars in Scorpio is more inclined towards research and connecting people, about domestic. Do you do anything domestic?
No, I don't really.
Have you
Besides
done
work.
anything? Have you done anything musical? I would say
No.
even more than anything, music is a really
I
strong
love music
thing in your
though.
chart. Well, you've got Moon, Neptune, and Venus all in the house naturally ruled by Leo, which is the fifth house. It's in Sagittarius, which is music and musicians. You also have Taurus on your midheaven, which is music, and more the structure like playing an instrument and piano. Let me see what else I can find here. Generally, when I do careers, I look for your Saturn, your Mars, your midheaven, which is Taurus, and anything that might be influencing that, which is Saturn going through your fifth house in Sagittarius. So there's something around travel. What do you do now? Let me ask you that.
Actually, what I do now is I'm a counselor for the mental and physical disabled. I'm like an advocate for them.
Okay. Do
and
you
I do
work with
travel a
children?
lot because I take them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they all even though they are all adults,
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, they are child
Oh,
age,
okay.
you
Got it.
know. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I do love children. I do have children myself.
Okay.
Um,
That's actually a huge focus for you right now. What I want to say, because when I'm looking, the pattern I'm seeing in your chart is that right now you're getting a lot of hits on the fire energy of your chart, meaning you want to do something, you feel a very strong need to take action.
yes,
Late degrees
yes.
Uranus in Aries and Saturn at 22 Sag, which are both late degree fire signs, are wanting, or they're like, I just got to do something. I got to, like, what can I do? And I understand that. But that being said, I want to say by the end of the year, Saturn will be going into Capricorn, which is the structure and the physicality of something, and it's going to be more about pragmatism and um, getting your ducks in a row. And it isn't going to be quite the same drive to do, which you have now. If you are driven to do something, I would say focus the energy on education and learning. So you've got Saturn also coming up on your natal moon at 29 Sag, which means you're wrapping up a mother story in your life, and you're going to take the information that you've learned from everything you've done, and I wouldn't be surprised if you take what you know from what you've done and put it into play in a business out of your home. Now, do you do something out of your home now or no?
No, but I've been thinking about what can I do
Mm-hmm.
from home. Yes.
Well, honestly, I just want to say you've had Saturn already transit over your Neptune, which is your dreams and ideals. And really, two things. One thing is, what is it that you do that makes you happy? You know, when you have your own time and you're like, I just love doing that. I love going to get coffee, or I love going shopping, or I love looking through catalogs or magazines, or I just love spending time with my kids. Like, what is it that you say, this is my happy place?
Traveling.
Okay. So in traveling, what is it that you can do out of your home? Could you make a, a hobby or an avocation out of being a travel agent, or using something like that? Like, you can make videos about travel. Um, you've got the moon energy, so something about kids. And so one thing you can do there also, which isn't something I mention a lot with Sagittarius, but it's fantasy. And there could be something connected to writing children's books or writing fantasy novels, things like that. Have you thought about something like that?
No, I haven't.
And also, with all this energy in your fifth house, which is creativity, you really do have some talent. You haven't ever drawn. I would honestly recommend that you take some kind of art course if you can. And as a Michael's art instructor, I would say go to Michael's. And they have, you may have one. Let's see, are you still in Memphis?
Yeah, there's Michael's here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, if
familiar with
one,
Michael.
yeah, if one doesn't have a course in art, another one will. But I would go online and look it up and see when. I mean, I know this is like a shameless plug because I'm not even being paid to say this, but Michael's has a wonderful group of make it classes that you can do for free, and they also have acrylic and drawing classes that they do every month. And this month it's like pumpkins and vines, and it's actually going to be pretty fun. And I would highly recommend, given your chart, you're really seeking something creative in your chart. You really want to express the creativity, and yeah, if you could take a course in something creative, I think it would really spark you. And there's so many different things. And even if it isn't art, it could be scrapbooking, it could be, whatever. Go look at the class and see what they have. But your Scorpio in your chart really wants you to bond and do some deep soul bonding. And Jupiter, and this is ironic, you have Uranus in Scorpio. Uranus likes to detach, while Scorpio wants to bond. So what you're doing,
Yep.
which I know, it's like, what? So when Jupiter is transient and likes to skitter along the top and the surface of things. When Jupiter hits Uranus for you, and it's going to happen fairly quickly. Let me just look up real quick here. So 7 degrees of Jupiter. So it'll be the midweek of November. there's going to be some kind of detachment from the home environment, like your family. You're going to say, I just need to be in my own mind space. I just need to have detachment. That's going to hit you pretty strong in November, okay? And, it's going to be, I'll tell you honestly, it's going to be the feeling like, I don't want to do Thanksgiving because you people are driving me nuts. That's what it's going to be like, because you take on everyone else's energy. Scorpio is like the ultimate empath. So you're picking up everyone's energy. Know that that's coming, but honestly, looking at your chart, you got Saturn on your rising sign says that you basically are creating your own story in this life. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. So Mars in Scorpio says that you want to deeply bond. You need to find your value, but right next to Uranus means you're trying to find your value outside of the family or away from the traditional family tribe. So, I would say do some research. Scorpio is really good with law and research. And also metaphysics could be something, too. You probably could also do astrology if you really wanted to. Scorpio makes you an incredible counselor and intuitive. So you'd be great at intuitive astrology if you wanted to seek out more about that. And
intuitive astrology?
Yeah. It's basically what I do. It's when you use your empathic senses, like you can sense what things mean. I mean, for me, it's dualistic. It's not just, it's understanding where a person's coming from emotionally and knowing kind of what they're trying to tell you or what's coming out of their lives. They may not even be aware of it, but then also taking the symbols of astrology and using them like ingredients in a recipe, and what that particular symbol means in a person's life, and when you combine it with other symbols, you're like, oh, I get the story. So it's very visceral and intuitive. That's what I do. It's how I read. So, yeah, I mean, if you want, Jupiter's going to have you going back to school or, advanced education. So you're going to want to be seeking out more information about different things. It could be more domestic. It could be family. It could be just whatever. Let me see where Neptune and Sagittarius. You could do some archival research too if you want. I mean, you don't have, you do have Neptune transiting in Pisces right now, which can mean family archival research, genealogy, and things like that. You might find some stories from that. But I've given you probably way more than you can digest as far as ideas.
Yes.
But I would recommend, with as much Sagittarius as you have, definitely pray or meditate on what to do and ask for higher guidance. Ask angels, it's there. So.
Okay.
And if you want a further
Wonderful.
reading, we can go more into other things in your chart. Definitely let me know. But I appreciate the phone call, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Blessings to you.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye,
Thank
Dee.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let's take 863. Hi, 863. How are you?
Hey, Shelley. Good. How are you?
Good. Who am I talking to?
This is Julia from Florida.
Oh, wonderful. Where in Florida are you at?
Out by Disney, Davenport.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's cool. That's my favorite side of town. I wish I lived on that side of town. I always feel happier when I get out on the west side for some reason. I don't know why. But why don't you shoot me your birth information, and then I can look at your chart.
It's September 16th, 1961.
Okay. And what time?
10:53 a.m.
Okay. And where were you born?
Salem Center, Ohio.
Okay. Let's see if I have that in my atlas. Yep, I've got it. So wonderful. Okay. So Virgo, like me. You've got a couple planets right there. And Venus and Mars are just touching your sun. So there's a really strong, so this is what goes on with Venus and Mars joined together in the sky. Venus, when it's in a location farther away from Mars, wants to find its partner in wherever Mars is, and it looks to find someone else to complete them. With Venus and Mars together transiting, it means that you're looking to find completion in that part of your life by yourself. They're together and they're one, they're whole. That happens to be right on your sun. So this is a really strong time of feeling complete and of yourself in some sense. You may be wanting a partner just because there's so much Libra in the sky, but the thing is that you're probably more attracted to spending time alone and really getting to understand things that interest you. And it's also in your house of career right now. So are you looking for some kind of shakeup in your career? Like maybe your ego isn't being stroked enough, or people don't appreciate you enough in your career? Is that kind of...
Well, I'm not working now, but I know I need to get myself moving because I've been really stagnant. It's like I went through my divorce and I just kind of, I'm like stuck in neutral.
Yeah.
And every time I think about, going back out into the world, I just, the anxiety and the, oh my God, can I do this? And, everything just, the ego jumps in with both feet.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
lots of sleepless nights.
Having Virgo and Pluto in the career house, it's hard because Virgo very much is the hermit. It wants to just be alone because I'll tell you why. And people don't really recognize this about Virgo, but they are very intuitive and they take on everybody else's stuff and they feel very exposed. And that's part of why you're having some anxiety about going back out into the world, is because you're probably more with Mars and Virgo transiting right now. You're wanting to not be there. You want to withdraw. You want to be private. And that's a really strong word for Virgo, is privacy. And then you have Pluto as well, which is really interesting because, again, Pluto is very covert and wants to be behind the scenes. Along Virgo is the helper and usually has a very humble behind the scenes energy about it. And so does Scorpio ruler, which is Pluto. So is there something that you could consider doing behind the scenes? And you'd be really good with librarian or working with children in a school, or doing something that is more administrative that doesn't require a lot of public attention, but maybe more support. Do you do anything like that? Have you done that in the past?
Yeah, the administrative work, secretarial type work, Yeah.
I would honestly, if you're thinking, because, this is a time of year I think a lot of people are thinking about, especially with Mars and Virgo. It's like we're thinking about work because Virgo rules the house of work. So I would recommend for you, given that you're a little bit more shy about going back into the workforce, that you do something that seems a little less threatening. And I'm only speaking to you from my point of view, which is a Virgo who also has Pluto in Virgo, and that is go to the school system and apply there, because that is, number one, it's going to be around education, which is a great thing. Virgo is the teacher. Doesn't mean you have to teach. If you're into administration, you could be in school administration. But I think it would be probably more cooperative with your chart and where you feel nurtured. And you also have Venus in the house of education in Leo, which is children. So that would be my recommendation for you. That you have and you have Saturn, Jupiter conjunct in Capricorn, and you have Jupiter in the third house, Saturn's in the second, so getting money from traditional means and structures, and also Jupiter is education in the third house of education. So that's where I would recommend you go, especially towards the end of the year. If you don't get to it till the end of the year, it's going to be much more about the system and about governmental systems, so that would also align with education. How do you feel about that?
Okay.
I just think that
I can see where that would be less threatening to work with kids instead of, because I have some social anxiety when I'm out, especially, I don't know what it is, when I'm around other women, I just kind of, I think it's like internally, I'm like subconsciously comparing myself, and the Virgo always finds yourself lacking.
Self-critical, yes.
So.
Well, you have Uranus. Uranus is an energy that's really electrical and stimulated, and it's up at your midheaven, and it's also 6 degrees off Venus, so it's nerves. Basically, Uranus can translate as anxiety. It either translates as excitement on a positive side or anxiety on a fearful side. So near your Venus there, I can see how you feel that way. Definitely you've got Jupiter in your 12th house, which I just got Jupiter out literally today. Jupiter went into my first house because I have a 0-degree Scorpio rising. So it went into my first house, and I've dealt with it in the 12th, which is where it is for you, for the last year. So I completely understand that I don't want to leave the house right now. I just want to be in my cocoon, and I want people to just stay over there. I get it. I completely get it. But for you, next year is much better for going out, because next year is when Jupiter gets to your first house at 18 degrees. So let me tell you the date that happens for you. Let me see, 18 degrees and 59 minutes, which is almost 19, so the 14th of January for you. Okay? And I would honestly say you're approaching an area where Jupiter's joining up with Neptune, so it's creating a very strong intuition for you and a place of your deepest desire. And I can see Neptune in the 12th house. Neptune rules the 12th house. It rules Pisces, and that's the house it's in. It's in Scorpio, so it's very deep, very protective, and wanting to be alone. I completely get that. So another area you could potentially look at is a telecommute job. So you could work out of your house at least until next year. If you really need the money, I would consider doing that. I would also recommend, and I just got chills when I got this hit, that you consider doing some volunteer work for 2 reasons. First off, the volunteer work will get you out into an environment where you can be supportive, so you're not necessarily seeking the money right away. And that leads to the second part of it, which is they could potentially have an opening that's pay. And so it would be like easing into the workforce. And you have Mars in Libra, you have Mercury in Libra, and those are support also and social work. So that could be some positivity. Oh, and I have to tell you, you were talking about a little anxiety around women. Vesta is the asteroid that kind of creates like this shrewish woman energy. That's right next to the sun now in Libra for you, and it's coming up on your Mercury, which is also probably giving you a little more social anxiety around women. And I can't say that that's going to be a lot better probably until next year also, because Vesta will, I think it kind of follows right around Mercury. So let me just see if I can find how long that's going to be there.
Actually, one of the things I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I just, before we run out of time, I'm wanting to relocate, so I was curious, like, for timing-wise. It's like, I had thought about the Panhandle, but since we just went through all those hurricanes, it's like now I'm, like, rethinking, so it's like now I don't know where I want to move to, so Well,
definitely farther north would be good. I want to say, have you considered, the north half of the country, Jupiter will be moving in next year into the north half of your chart. So, I mean, I use the chart basically as, because each part of the chart is east, west, north, and south. And Jupiter's getting ready to get out of that area and will trigger a move when it gets to your first house. So that's probably more north, even farther north than, I would say, like Virginia. Do you know anybody in that area?
No, but I've actually lived there before.
Have you? Well, maybe I was picking up on it.
Yeah, that's funny.
I just want to say, maybe the northern climes, like on the border between the north and the south, is really kind of where I'm thinking, like just on the north side of the north-south. I don't know where the Mason-Dixon line is, but is that Georgia? Or is it farther north than there? I think it's the North Georgia border.
I'm not
but I'm not
sure,
positive.
Actually.
Anyway, I would suggest somewhere closer to, like Virginia, North Carolina, or Maryland, somewhere in that part of the country. But, if you wanted to look further into it, I could do that. But I am running out of time, and I was going to take one more call. So,
I'm sorry. Okay, well, thank you so much.
No, it's okay. You're welcome. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, let's take one last call. 817. Hi, 817. How are you?
Oh, Shelley, how are you? I didn't expect to get through today. How are you?
You're lucky. Is this Nancy?
It is. How are you?
Hey.
You're talking about
Bueno.
real estate and changes and all that. I recently started real estate schools. I just said, I'll try something different on the back end and do it part-time. Haven't finished the class yet.
Oh, okay.
I was not,
cool.
and you were talking about what you put out is what you get. I haven't been putting out anything, but I recently had someone reach out to me and potentially is offering me a different job, which I really wasn't looking for. So
yeah, but Jupiter just went into your house of career, so of course you can have expansion.
No, and the thing is that it's an exciting opportunity. It's kind of a startup. I would really be helping them from the ground up on, and I am in travel, so it has to do with travel. And
cool.
So I don't know. I'm tempted to just go for the jump. I'm not even sure. And it also is connecting me with an agency I used to work with 10 years ago. I've worked with them probably 15 years of my career, and I've called him in as a consultant, and so the three of us may work together with this new company and him and me. And so you're talking about this in the beginning. I'm like, oh, my God, okay, real estate's got to hit, travel's got to hit, possibly changing. So I just, I was wondering where Jupiter was hitting me. It's in my 10th.
Right there in your career.
Career, that's right. It is on the 10th house because I have a lot in the 8th house, but that's not where Scorpio is.
No, well, transiting Jupiter, your Neptune in Scorpio is at 10 degrees Neptune in your career house. So literally, I was just looking it up here while you were talking, Thanksgiving time, let me see, Thanksgiving is, I want to say the 23rd this year?
Something like that.
I don't know. It's the very last day of the month. It's supposed to be the last Thursday of the month unless it falls on the last day or something. So
it's the 23rd.
Right, the last week of the month is going to be really big for Jupiter on your Neptune, and that's expansion of your career and your dream. So I want to say this is coming in. It's probably closely associated with your dream, and Pluto in your first house, and you've got Saturn and Capricorn in your first house, so it's creating the structure. Pluto just went direct, 2 weeks ago, something like that? So the 29th, I think it was, of September. So yeah, it's moving forward. Saturn's moving forward. Jupiter's forward now. Just changed signs today. It's in your career house. Everything looks like it's moving forward except for Uranus, but that just means that you're going back over some issues around how you think about things and your own autonomy, because it's Uranus at 26, right on that cusp of home and family, which is also change around the home and family. So, and autonomy, it's like you're asserting your own independent voice. So yeah, I would say everything in your life around this career move is looking pretty positive.
Wow. Yeah, because I was hoping to start into real estate just kind of on the side, small. It may take a while before I build up any kind of back. I have a friend who lives locally and been in the area for a long time, and she's got a lot of new people moving to the area, and so I was going to kind of just do that on the side to help her, and then this other thing just came out of nowhere last Thursday, so I'm like, I think I'm going to go for it. I think I'm going to jump, take a leap.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you told me when I had a reading with you in the beginning of the year that I would be shifting careers. I had a feeling you did say that from the very get-go.
Yep.
Interesting.
And there it is. Okay, so Jupiter, you're midheaven, so you're getting attention, and you're really good. Again, Scorpio is good with knowing things intuitively and behind the scenes work, like getting to the heart of things that other people don't see, and they just understand people and their natures. So you have a really good radar for ethics. So I would use that. And then you have Saturn in the 12th right now, so you're bringing even more intuition and higher understanding, spirituality into it. So you're kind of lit up for understanding and awareness. And I would say everything's moving forward in that quadrant of your chart. So looks good to me. And you're going to have it. I just want to say, I didn't really touch on this. The retrograde next year of Jupiter means that we're going to be going back over a lot of these degrees that are in the middle section of Scorpio. So it retrogrades, it looks like it retrogrades in April. No, it retrogrades in March. And it gets all the way to 23 degrees, which means it's already into your money from career. So there's like you're flying through these first 23 degrees because it's only there for 4.5 months before it retrogrades, and it gets there in 4.5 months. It goes 23 degrees. That's a lot of degrees, and then it goes back all the way. Yeah, and it goes back to I think around 13. Yeah, it goes to 13 degrees again, which is just past your Neptune. So I want to say between now and November, that's a huge push towards making this dream come true, because when Jupiter gets past Neptune, it's not going to hit there again for another 12 years. So this is like a key push towards making your dream happen, okay? Because it'll go back. It may rework a few things, but it's not going to get back exactly on your Neptune like it does in November this year. So that only happens every 12 years. Yeah, so I would say, you know, Jupiter is expansion and fortune, and it's hitting that Neptune like I say, go girl.
Awesome. Okay. With the real estate school, I literally signed up the day before the class. I'm like, I can really only fit it in right now. Next year I'm going to be way too busy with my new program coming up, and which I won't have to deal with that if I switch positions. But so I just jumped into this class not having a clue what I was getting myself into, and then this guy called me out of nowhere. Well, through a friend.
Awesome.
A friend referred me. So, I'm very excited. Okay, awesome.
No, but,
I will be reaching out to you, though, for a one-on-one, so I want to have
oh, that's beautiful. No, the Sagittarius energy is definitely real estate, and Jupiter rules real estate and Sagittarius. So it's going to be hitting money from career is Sagittarius in your chart, too. So, yeah, I mean, I would say it looks really positive in that regard for you. So go.
Okay, awesome. Good deal. And is your availability pretty good in the next couple of weeks?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll get on
All
there
right,
and check it out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
you. Bye, Nancy.
You bet.
Take care.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye. You're welcome. Okay, that's the show for this week, and thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for stopping by AstroEnergy this week. If you would like to get a hold of Shelley Overton, you can get her at astrologerangel.com, on Facebook at AstroEnergy or Astrologer Angel. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, with additional music by Ironwood Rain. Check them out on the net at ironwoodrain.com. To subscribe, please click the picture of Shelley on the right or the red button below.